What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the Hoops Corner. I'm your host, Peter Tran, and on the line, the Iceman himself, Josh Cohen. How you doing tonight?
Doing well. Happy that basketball is back and rolling. There's a lot of interesting teams out there. A lot of very interesting records too. Like I just noticed the Lakers are 10-4. When I saw that, I was like, "Whoa, I did not realize that." But yeah, it's been a very interesting couple weeks for sure.
You clearly do not watch the ESPN hype machine enough.
No, I stay away from Stephen A.
Our residential medical expert, Rajan Walia. How you doing?
Hey, I think we're a full month into the season and time's just flown by. We have some NBA Cup action. We have some storylines, new storylines, old storylines. LeBron's still in the league. Life's good.
Do you miss Bronny yet?
Who?
Come on, man. Don't disrespect the king's son. He's the prince.
I think the great thing about this is it was a story for exactly how long it should have been. Like 1 week, he gets his first minutes, he plays with his dad, he gets his first points, and he doesn't belong in the league. He's a G League player at best, and that's what he's doing now. And the story's moved on. Like you don't see any more Bronny watches. People aren't paying absurd amount of money. Like we can actually focus on the basketball.
It's true. I mean, other than Brian Windhorst bringing up that he's only playing in half the G League games, which I don't think anyone would have really noticed. Like, Windhorst could have just let that fly by right under the radar and nobody would have cared, but just have to throw it out there, you know? Windy, just bringing on that smoke for the James family. I appreciate it. It's good
I
journalism.
still feel like he feels slighted by LeBron. It feels like his entire career is connected to his, right? He's latched on to everything LeBron related. And it seems like he just wants that one interview, and LeBron just won't give it to him. And still, he lashes out every once in a while because of it.
We better go work for Uninterrupted instead of ESPN.
Indeed.
You know, LeBron ain't doing all that. Get his own podcast with JJ Redick. I'm done with the Lakers talk because that's not on the docket today, guys. Today we're going about the West. We're talking about the top teams. So naturally, we got to show some love to the OKC Thunder and the Golden State Warriors. And a couple of teams that want to be in the top tier but aren't for various reasons. So let's just go into it. OKC, I mean, they're doing exactly what we expected, right? They're dominating. Pretty much every game is solidly theirs, or they're putting up a really good fight. Shea showing that he's a typical MVP candidate leading this team. Jalen Williams has stepped up again in his what year is J-Dub in? Third year?
Third year.
Third year.
Third year. My man is, how tall is he? 6'5", 6'6"?
Yeah.
Probably 6'6".
Playing center somehow after Chet Holmgren got injured and doing a damn good job out of it. And on top of that, they just keep finding random guys that can like contribute to this team. It's a real like next man up mentality. Sort of like how the Spurs had it before. But before Chet Holmgren got hurt, have you ever heard of Dylan Jones or AJ Mitchell?
Nope.
The Thunder know how
Sounds
to
about
draft. I think that's very clear.
Yeah.
And coach.
Surprise, surprise. Sam Presti's good at his job. Oh, I guess so is Mark Daniel. But, I mean, Josh, this team is just rolling. I mean, you've been an OKC Thunder believer, lover, praiser. All these words. You just love this team. And, I mean, it's bearing fruit, right?
They are the most fun team to watch in the NBA overall. I think the Knicks are the funnest offense to watch in the NBA, but overall, just seeing how OKC operates on both sides of the ball, the way they swing the ball, and defensively, they're like the most annoying team to play against maybe in like NBA history. They're basically what the Raptors were, when the Raptors were in their championship year, maybe even after that too, when they were just running around on defense and you're playing these guys like 35 to 40 minutes a game. You're like, how are these guys doing this every night and not just either getting injured or just tiring out? But, OKC has like 10 or 12 guys that can do it throughout the game, and they have their two stars who are just phenomenal on both sides of the ball. And now they have Hardenstein back. So once Chet gets back in 3 months or whatever the timeline is, hopefully before the playoffs start, Yeah, they're going to be rolling for sure. They're already rolling right now, but they're going to be maybe unstoppable at that point.
Again, I think the injuries are the big concern for them, and that's any team that's a contender. Like if the Celtics lost Tatum or Brown or even Derek White, or if obviously the Lakers lost AD, it comes down to injuries. Right now, it's better for them to have these injuries at the beginning of the season, because what ends up happening is those guys that were like 8, 9, 10 on the bench are getting 6, 7 minutes, like off the bench. They're playing 25 minutes a game. They're getting that experience. So OKC, a team that was already so deep, is just getting even deeper and real good minutes. I still think once Hartenstein gets more acclimatized to the offense and Chet comes back, they probably still need a good 20, 25 games, hopefully all together. Just have their rotations, especially defensively, because we talked about it on the last podcast. Their big weakness is if they end up playing like a team that plays big, which again could be the Lakers, but there's not many other teams.
I mean, Hartenstein looked pretty good yesterday in his debut. I think we all saw the clips of Magic Hartenstein out there until it was a blown beautiful assist. But he looks like just perfectly comfortable. He's got that playoff experience from last year with the Knicks as well, and sort of just fits into this perfectly. So Chet is out at least 8 weeks as of last week, so another 7 weeks to go minimum until we get an update on his injury or his rehabbing. So it's gonna take some time. That'll take us into what, mid-January before we realistically see Chet anywhere.
He's not going to come back until after the All-Star break, realistically.
So what, mid-February, late February? That's still like 2 months, right? 2 months of gelling, hopefully, as long as everyone's healthy at that point. That's not bad, especially for a team that has championship aspiration, right? Like last year, OKC was that team that, kind of like a feel-good story. They got first place in the West, but it was more like, oh yeah, bunch of young guys, they made it here. J-Dub in his second year, but is also the second best player. Now the expectation is like finals. Nothing less, right?
Yeah.
Western Conference Finals is not going to do it anymore.
Yeah. But do you think they have enough shooting around them?
Hell yeah.
Do they have enough proven shooting in the playoffs, though? That's one question, I think. I think the bigger question is, this is before the season too. Like, can Jalen Williams be the number 2? And I think the biggest thing that they have changed this season versus last is they have so much defensive versatility around him. He doesn't have to be the primary defender in a series against Dallas on Kyrie Irving or Luka Doncic. He can sort of rest throughout parts of the game anyway in order to save his energy for the offensive end. So I think that's going to be key, being able to play Caruso or any of the guys, like any of these guys that are coming off the bench. Casey Wallace, obviously. Lou Dort obviously starts for them, but there's so many different options that they have. And at the trade deadline, they can do whatever they want to. So if they find that a certain piece is available, they can always upgrade in any way that they want because they have 20,000 picks and they have young talent. So I don't think they're going to make a big move, obviously, but if they find the right player, like a Cam Johnson, I think he would be like absolutely perfect for this team. Proven shooter, guy who's been in the finals, plays good defense, that started off the season really well with the Nets. Like, he's definitely gettable. Like, they're going to be wanting to trade him at the deadline, so he's the type of guy that I think is going to end up on a team like either Cleveland or OKC.
Mm-hmm. I could definitely see them adding, like we talked about it briefly, the shooting, proven shooting. Like, you can never really have enough shooters. Especially if it's just someone's not playing well or an injury. Like, you want to have a bit more depth. The other question too, or not question, but the other benefit of Chet going down is essentially J-Dub will be really the second scorer on this team for the next 2 months. Like, it's not like Chet some games, him some games. Like, he is going to have to be the Robin to SGA and give your team 20 to 25 points night in, night out. And I think that's actually good for development. And it's better that Chet's out November, December, January than it is if he's out February, March, April.
Yeah, I mean, naturally, it's better to get the injuries out of the way earlier, right? As long as it doesn't really, hinder anything. Like, you don't want it to hinder any chemistry. You don't want it to hinder any development for them. But I mean, this team is rolling. That's all you can really say, right? Like, aside from their one loss to who did they lose to? They lost to Denver like in the second week, and who else? They lost to someone absurd.
They lost to the
recently.
Spurs a couple days ago. I'm not
Spurs.
sure how that happened, but yeah, without all their players too.
Wemby was out.
Yeah.
And Vassell.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that really happened. And then, to be honest, like that Trailblazers game where Hartenstein came back, it was like kind of iffy for the first 40 minutes of the game. Like, it was actually really close. The Trailblazers, low key, fun league pass team, by the way, just in case you guys aren't watching. But yeah, I mean, OKC, like, it's a long season. You're gonna play down to your opponents from time to time, i.e., the Spurs in this situation and the Trailblazers. But there's really nothing to worry about, right? As long as these guys keep getting playoff reps, I don't think anyone really has any concern about them going forward.
Yeah, they don't need to panic here.
Yeah, I do have one very interesting stat with the OKC Thunder, though. So far in the 15 games, can you guess how many times they have lost the free throw battle against the other team, in terms of the other team shooting more free throws than them, despite them being the team that leads the league in drives per game? Out of the 15 games, how many times has the other team beat them in the free throw battle?
14.
10.
13. It's a very, very weird stat since people think that, SGA is a massive foul baiter. And
He is.
And he is.
He's 100% is.
Like, there's no denying that. Like,
I don't think he's been as bad this year, to be honest, from what I've watched. But the fact that they lead the league in drives per game and they're getting outshot at the free throw line like they are, it's pretty amazing. It's very odd.
Shocking. That's a big shocker.
Yeah, it's very, very weird. They don't shoot a lot of free throws.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, though, that might be better for them in the playoffs if they're not reliant on free throws now, because you don't get as many calls, i.e. Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, but you still need to get there to get those free points to, widen your advantage. And maybe that changes over the course of the year. It might just be like a 15-game blip. Who knows? But it's been something to look into.
also, they just have a lot of, like, minus SGA, they have a lot of unproven players. Like, Chet now has been injured, and J-Dub is probably the other big marquee name. But we all know that referees sometimes give calls based off of reputation, and a lot of these guys are less than 3 years in the league. They're not bona fide starters. So I think as the season goes on, they're going to get a bit more leniency from the referees, and I'm sure the calls will come. The key thing is they're driving to the rim, they're putting 2 feet into the paint, getting good shots up, and especially if SGA still continues to be as aggressive as he is, that's gonna come up. If we talk about this by All-Star break, I guarantee you they will not be bottom of the league in free throw attempts. They probably aren't even this year either. It's just when they play teams, I guess the refs might want to keep the other team in the game for Vegas.
Or the refs really respect Keldon Johnson and Harrison Barnes, and that's why the Spurs outshot them 19-7 at the free throw line last game.
Maybe. Barnes is a legend.
I mean, he won the game for them.
Black Falcon, boy. Black Falcon, man.
Has to be one of the most unknown, obscure, absurd nicknames in the NBA. Like I've never heard it as an announcer calling Harrison Barnes Black Falcon. I've never heard it, but I swear I'm sure it's happened. But
top 5 nickname in the league, maybe top 3.
Top 3 easy.
I gotta say, Westside Connect is
nick-
definitely up there right now.
Westside Connect is a sick name.
Yo,
That's a sick name.
Dalton Connect is playing pretty nice. You can shoot the ball.
Yo, how do the Lakers keep coming up, man? This is very annoying. I don't like this.
Peter wants the ban Lakers talk until 2025.
Oh my god.
You brought up Bronny.
Make the playoffs, bro.
They are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, at this rate they will, but still. Put JJ Redick on the floor. That'd be fun. I mean, they kind of have his reincarnate in Dalton Connect already. Just a taller version of him. Anyways, moving on. The Golden State Warriors have gone back to their strength in numbers. It feels like they run like 14 to 15 guys every game, which is like a wild thing to do because, you know, it's the Golden State Warriors. We were so used to them just relying on Steph and Klay for so long. But now you have random guys like Lindy Waters. Lindy Waters, who was, prior to this year, famous for being known as a random dude that a chick on the internet wanted to bang out. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally what, like, most people knew Lindy Waters for. The name of Lindy Waters. And now he's a starter on the Golden State Warriors. A year and a half after being excused from the OKC Thunder. You know what I mean? Like, that's just crazy. Good for him. Good for Lindy Waters. But anyways, the rest of this Golden State team, over the offseason, we were like, hey, what's gonna happen? They let Klay go. We all know the drama behind that, whatever. And then you're sort of just questioning, like, is Draymond going to come back to being Draymond, or is he just, like, weird? Are we going to get real contributions from guys like Kyle Anderson and Buddy Hield? The answer is yes. Hell, yes. Because Buddy Hield started off the year maybe as, like, the hottest flamethrower ever. He basically came in doing exactly what the team used to rely on Klay to do. Right? Kyle Anderson's now that guy off the bench. He's sort of like the floor general that comes off. Basically took over Chris Paul's role from last year, except he's, you know, not washed. And they're bringing Jonathan Kuminga off the bench as like a spark plug. Everything just flows with this team. You have every guy that sort of just knows his role, right? You take your shots if you're open. You have constant flowing offense. And you get Steph the damn ball still. That part has not changed whatsoever. And you play insane defense. Everything is just popping with this team. And it seems like Steve Kerr has him working, like, gelling really well right now. And is going to have some lineup decisions come the playoffs.
I'm actually, like, I don't want to say I'm not surprised, but I think the Golden State Warriors they have Steph, who's obviously the best shooter the game ever has. And they have a coach in Steve Kerr that has shown in the past, 6 years, 7 years, that he can make adjustments. He can get the most out of most of the players. And especially if he has players that have some veteran leadership. Obviously, Kyle Anderson's been around. Buddy Yield's played on a few teams. Like, these are veterans that know their role. They know how to play it. They don't kind of overstep. And they actually have just a great system. Like, I'm not comparing it to the San Antonio Spurs, especially with Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, and them, but they just have a good system where the players know the offense. They know that Steph is going to attract pretty much an extra defender every time he's on the court, and it makes the game a lot easier for those role players. And I think this is more a comment on Steve Kerr's system that they have, and just the absolute dominance of Steph more than anything else. Because if they didn't have Steph, they're anywhere near top team in the West. That's just the truth. And if they didn't have Steve Kerr, if they had another coach, they're probably not in the top of the league either, talent-wise. So it comes down to those two people, and Draymond's obviously playing his role. He's an unselfish defensive stud, and they're winning the way the Warriors know how to win. And I think it's good for the league to have a few different teams winning, and they play a good brand of basketball. Like, it's actually fun to watch.
Yeah, they've really gone all in on their identity and finding players that fit within the system instead of trying to just sign talent like they used to 3 to 4 years ago with guys like Kelly Oubre, who just did not fit at all. But I think the biggest difference, obviously the depth has been amazing for them this year, and finding guys that, again, fit into the system, know how to play their role, and don't try to overstep who they are. But, just bringing in the guys that you mentioned, I think Kyle Anderson's been a massive addition. And, losing him from the Timberwolves has caused, like, a massive gaping hole in their roster as well. Like, he really connected a lot of different things, especially in the defensive end, for the Timberwolves. But now that he's with the Warriors, there's lineups where he's a center a lot of the time against certain teams. Like he played center against OKC, and they had real success with that. And they were able to beat OKC on the road. So yeah, I mean the Warriors are in a really good spot right now, and they're the type of team that could eventually make a 3-for-1 type of deal. But I do think the one negative though, like the fact that DeAnthony Melton's out for the year, I think that's a big hit for them because when he actually played and when he plays in general, he's a really good addition. Like he just plays solid on both sides of the ball. He knows exactly what he needs to do, and he's a really good defensive player. So I think losing him is going to hurt them if they keep the roster as is come playoff time. But the fact that Andrew Wiggins is actually playing well again has been huge for them, obviously. So glad to see him back and glad to see him playing well after what was a down year last year.
Who do you think they get if they're going to look to replace a player like Melton?
I don't think they're really going to do anything because going into the season, you thought that Brandon Pajemski was going to be the starting shooting guard, right? And he's still not starting despite Melton going down. I know they're switching lineups most games, sort of like what OKC's doing with Case and Wallace and Wiggins as well. But I think it's going to change depending on the matchup. I think Hield's going to remain off the bench because he's just been a really good fit for them coming in and just jacking up every single shot where the ball touches his hands, no matter what the situation is coming off the bench. So I think Lindy Waters continues to start a lot of these games and maybe start Pajemski in certain matchups, but will they do anything? It's hard to do anything in the trade deadline based on where they are with the cap and everything. So it's going to be tough to make a trade, obviously. I think it's more of like an off-season type of thing and just roll with the punches this year.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is Kuminga was supposed to be a starter, and now he's coming off the bench. I think for them to actually go far, I think he has to be a good player off the bench. And then they would have, again, Kyle Anderson, Kuminga, as like two of the first players off the bench, and then Buddy Yield. Like that's not a bad three like kind of players to come off. They have some talent. It just you obviously have Steph, Draymond as the core, and then if they have Looney as well if they really want to play big. And so like I think overall they're in a good place and they're fun. They play good flowing basketball. It's kind of what everyone wants to see.
It's exactly what like made us all fall in love with the Warriors back in the day, right? Just constant ball movement. But the thing with Kuminga is really interesting. Like, he and Moody were supposed to be the two guys to take a big leap this year, right? But Kuminga sort of seems like if he's shooting well, if he's playing defense, if he's engaged, it looks like Steve Kerr is ready to ride him for that game. But as soon as he does like one thing wrong, if he seems a little bit cold, then Kerr's like, "You're out. On to the next." Like no hesitation, gets one chance at it, and then we're good. That's it. You're playing 15, 20 minutes tonight, and the rest of the time goes to somebody else. It's really interesting. It's like tough love with that kid, even though he sort of forced his way into playing time last year by like demanding a trade.
Honestly, like Moody has a great contract, and he's the type of player that could be included in a massive deal for a star player. And I think he's going to be a starter in the league, honestly. I think he's massively undervalued at his current salary and his current role as well. Like he barely plays. Like he should be the starting shooting guard a lot of the time. When he plays, he's actually like super productive. So I don't get the love-hate relationship with him. Like he's not this type of player that makes really bad decisions on the floor. So I'm not really sure why Kerr keeps, messing around with him. It's very odd.
Out of principle.
I don't understand what principle.
Yeah, I have no idea, but out of principle.
It sounded good.
Maybe young guy doesn't hustle enough, maybe?
I don't think that's the case. So it's not like Cam Thomas where like he's going to hog the ball and not play any defense, right? Like when Moses Moody comes in, he plays hard, he plays defense, and he takes good shots. So like, isn't that what you want? I'm confused.
That's the thing. He doesn't force anything, right? It's just like if the offense comes to him, he's down. But maybe that's why. Maybe you want somebody to be a little bit more forceful off the bench at least. Because they kind of do need like a spark plug off the bench, right? Like you're basically relying on like Kuminga off the bench to run everything and Kyle Anderson. Buddy Hield, I guess, but you can't have one player like shooting the ball. You need a kind of like equal distribution with the way that they play. So maybe that's why. I don't know. It seems odd. Maybe he did something to Steve Kerr personally. Talk back during film session, you know?
Well, let's stop with the TMZ. TMZ.
Cannot be disrespecting your head coach. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, do you think the Warriors are still going to end up being a top 3 seed in the West?
I don't know.
Like, do they keep this up?
I mean, I didn't believe in the Warriors for the past like 3 years, so I'm going to say no. But it seems like they're much better than they have been. Like, even in their championship year, they didn't play this well during the regular season. So, I don't know.
I think we're seeing the NBA trend towards depth, especially in the regular season, where that gets teams through. And even when Steph sat out a couple of games, I think they won 2 out of 3, and they look pretty good while doing it too. So they have like a 12 to 14 man roster. They have one of the deepest rosters in the league, along with OKC, and those teams are at the top of the conference, obviously. And then from there, like Houston, right? Like the Lakers obviously in third right now, but Houston's fourth, and Houston has one of the deepest benches in the NBA as well. So you just see teams
Depth
like
matters.
that are trending in that direction, right? I think that's where the NBA is going, where you have like 1 or 2 stars, and then the rest of the guys, you got to find that can play on both sides of the ball and not make mistakes. And Boston has like the top of that, and the other teams are just trying to catch up right now.
Yeah. I think we touched upon it in their first podcast of the season. Depth matters.
I mean, it's always mattered, though.
But it's mattered
so
more
now,
this
though.
season than... Like, the
Why?
teams that are deep they're just doing better. It's not top-end talent that's getting you through the regular season. It's
But
the teams that...
Top-end talent hasn't really gotten you that far in the season for years.
No, I disagree. Like, if you go back, like, 6-7 years ago, the top-end talent teams were the teams that were in the regular season dominating, too. Like, there wasn't...
Warriors? Like the Warriors dynasty? The LeBron Cavs years?
But even other teams, like, if you look at which teams had the top, like, 2 or 3, like, players, those are the teams. I feel now you're looking at teams that are playing players... Before, your 9th guy on the bench was playing max 10 to 12 minutes a game. Max. Now that 9th guy's playing 20 minutes a game.
I just think like it's harder to play in the NBA right now because of how you have to play on every single possession. Like we all play basketball, right? The hardest teams to play against are like the super athletic teams that know how to move the ball, because you're just having to like zip back and forth and close out, and it takes a toll on your joints when you have to close out the players and hop step and make sudden stops. And just doing that over and over, possession by possession, is really tough.
I love that you just compared your pickup run to NBA basketball.
Hey. We're organized. It's not no pickup run here.
Oh, my apologies. Your organized runs are being compared to NBA basketball. I love it. You guys are the same caliber as these professional athletes. Nutrition, training, all of it. That's why you're a residential medical expert, Raj.
All for all those injuries that players pick up. That's what I'm here for.
You're actually there as first aid. You come in with the first aid bag?
St. John's ambulance.
Oh, man. All right, let's move on. So I wanted to talk about this team, and I considered them a not top tier, but wannabe top tier kind of team initially. The Memphis Grizzlies. Raj, you and I are really high on Memphis going into the year. We thought that Desmond Bane would have a year to pop off. We thought John Morant would have a huge comeback year. And they've sort of just been not there.
They've been injured.
Straight up. Just not on the court.
Why are you not including me in this?
Were you high on Memphis? I don't even remember.
I bet them to win the championship.
Oh my god, that's a bit too high. That's why you were out of the stratosphere here. We couldn't see how out there you were. I think you lost credibility, Josh. But the Grizzlies are just injured. Again, they're another team like OKC. They're pretty much in the similar mold. They just don't. I would say they're just not as talented. overall, like Jaw's obviously a very good player. Desmond Bain's a very good player. They have a new center, obviously Eddie, who's played relatively well. Obviously, OKC has Magic Hartenstein. They both have depth. They both have a defensive stopper. Marcus Smart's obviously aged like 5 years. But I would say they're similar, like in terms of play style. I love how you turned that hat around, Peter. But to represent the Grizz. But if they're healthy, I think we're not talking about the Grizzlies as a team that's been disappointing. I think we're just talking to them about, hey, yeah, this is a mid-tier Western Conference team. If they get the right matchup, if they take the next steps as a team, they probably could beat most teams in the West. And if they don't win, they're going to have a good series. So they're a good team. Like, I have nothing to worry about if I'm a Grizz fan.
Yeah, and going back to depth, like they're another roster sort of like Golden State that has like 12 or 14 guys, and all these injuries throughout the course of the start of the regular season hasn't really hurt them that much. And the fact that they've lost their best player, and he's played maybe half the game so far, if that, and they lost Bane for a few games as well. And they just keep plugging guys in, and like the way that they play is actually like super entertaining. They brought this coach over from Europe, and they totally changed their play style this year. And they really do play like 0.5 second basketball where they just move the ball back and forth. I'm not sure how that's going to work with Ja when he gets back in, but for right now, they play a very hectic type of style on offense to where the ball is just zipping around, and that's hard to play against. Like it's hard to keep that energy up the entire game if you're a defensive team, and it's worked so far. So the fact they're 9-7 with their top, I mean, two of their top three players missing the majority of the games is pretty impressive to me.
I mean, this is classic Memphis Grizzlies basketball, right? Like that, those years where, before last year, but during the year where Ja Morant had all of his extracurricular activities, if you can say that, we saw that the Grizzlies didn't really lose a beat when he was out. Remember, there was all that talk if like Ja is actually a negative for the team and blah blah blah, like that kind of nonsense. Mainly because they had Tyus Jones. And now they seem to have found another player who's basically the reincarnate of Tyus Jones for this team. And that's Scottie Pippen Jr. Right? Like, this kid has just come on. He's low turnover. He's structured. He's controlled. He's a good floor general. And he's sort of just like, he organizes this team. So between him and their rookie Jalen Wells, is that his name?
Yep.
That dude literally just came out of nowhere into starter minutes. Not just starting position, but like minutes. Between those two alone in the backcourt, they held it down while Ja and Bane were out, and it's huge for this team who were just gonna be stuck in the mud without backcourt depth, right? Like these are gems that you find with good scouting departments, with good development.
Yeah, the Midwest knows how to draft. We talked about OKC. Memphis is another team that just drafts really well. They draft to need. They draft to talent. They have athletic players. I'm not worried. Like, I think Memphis, given their circumstance, is exactly where they should be. I would be worried if they had this kind of start and everyone was healthy.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, Edie's out as well. So a lot of their lower end bench players are playing right now, and they're playing phenomenally for their roles. I mean, Jake LaRavia has been killing it recently. I didn't even think he was an NBA player last year. And he's playing really well.
He doesn't look like an NBA player.
No. And Santi Aldama is playing great. Like, there's just a lot of good players.
Yeah, I mean, Luka didn't play for half the year either, and he's playing now, and was a key player for them, especially coming to playoffs because he was their only shooter. But now they have a bunch of guys that can shoot the ball. And the fact that their 15th man is still playing like 15 to 20 minutes a game is pretty impressive. So, yeah, I think they're in a good spot right now. Once Ja gets back in hopefully 1 or 2 weeks, they can start, making hay in the Western Conference. They've had a lot of really tough games. They've had a tough schedule so far, so I think that's going to ease up as, the next few weeks come up. And I think you're going to see them in the top 4 when it's all said and done.
Yeah, somewhere 4 to 6, I think, like, depending on injuries. But, we're talking about a problem that doesn't exist at this point.
I also just want to give another shout out to Canadian brother and Brandon Clark out here. And Zach Edey, obviously, Toronto legend. But Brandon Clark, coming back from his Achilles injury a year and a half ago. Big things. And Jaren Jackson Jr. being like the main, like one of their big three guys who's actually stayed healthy this year. And was healthy for most of last year too. It takes a lot to be healthy in Memphis apparently. And Jaren Jackson Jr. has figured that part out.
And I think they can safely keep Ja the next 2 weeks because they have the Bulls, they have the Trailblazers, the Pistons, the Pelicans, and then the Pacers at home. So after those 5 games, it gets a lot tougher, but the next 2 weeks should be a little bit easier for them.
Those first 3 are feisty teams.
Yeah, but you don't risk injuring Ja.
They're fun.
And to be honest,
feisty.
You don't need to risk it. Like, you're going to make the playoffs. Like, as long as you're not bottoming out, and they're not, they don't need to worry.
I'm just saying. The Trailblazers, the Bulls, and the Pistons. All, like, feisty teams. And then you have... Who did you say? The Pelicans?
Yeah, the Pelicans are the 4th team. And did you see the lineup they played yesterday?
Did you see Antonio Reeves going off? Oh my god. Who the hell is Antonio Reeves?
I thought it was a football player, no?
Oh my goodness. That Pelicans team is
something else.
Yeah, they're a bunch of G Leaguers out there, that's for damn sure. But good for those guys, man. Take advantage of your opportunity. Brandon Boston, Antonio Reeves doing your thing. Yves Missi, the rookie. Guy's actually putting in good minutes out there. Do your thing, man. You have opportunity. You got to take it in this league.
No doubt.
So the last team I want to talk about, guys, is this. Okay, this one is legitimately like a wannabe top tier team, but just hasn't had it. The Dallas Mavericks just seem like a major mess to me. We all thought that they would have issues coming into the season. You know, they obviously made it to the finals last year. They brought in Klay Thompson, so that was like their shooting that they wanted to bring in. Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes. Shooting. However, in that, they lose defensive depth in Derrick Jones Jr. That was like their main guy that left, right? Tim Hardaway Jr., but he wasn't playing anyways. And so, we thought that the offense would be humming, but it's not. We thought that Luka Doncic would come into the season in shape, ready to play, because he had to play in, not the Olympics, but leading up to the Olympics. Not really. We still got like the same slow-footed Luka. And we all saw that play last week where he just fell asleep on the last play of the game and literally just got backdoored for a game-winning dunk. That's it. Right? Luka has not been what we all hoped he would turn into this season. And it's odd, right? Like they had a stretch of 4 games where they lost each game by 1 bucket. So 1, 2, or 3 points. That was it. And those are the games that Luka usually wins for you, right? Like we all think of Luka as this super clutch performer, always gets those big shots, those patented step back threes that we all know. But it just it's not happening right now. So Josh, what's going on with Dallas that you've seen that they're just not flowing correctly?
I think a lot of it comes down to how Luka's played so far. He starts the season the same way every single time too. Like he looks super doughy. Even despite all the off-season talk that he's been working out and doing the right things and coming into camp in shape, but he never does. He always plays himself into shape, and that's why you're seeing, these types of muscle injuries that he's had. I know that he's out for a week now with a totally unrelated injury now with the wrist sprain, but he's had the knee problems. He had, I think, an ankle thing before that. He had a quad thing before that. So I think this week off will be really good for him, and I think you're going to start to see him getting into the groove once he does get back. I think he needed a week off anyway, just to, rehab his injuries that he's had with his lower, leg injuries so far. But overall, in terms of what else has affected them, I think not playing Derek Lively more has affected them really. Like playing Gafford in the starting lineup. I know Gafford's a good player and everything, but you can see the numbers. Like when Lively's on the court, they have a much better net rating. They can just do more things defensively, but also like PJ Washington, being out for half the season so far has hurt them because they don't really have anybody to replace him. Najee Marshall's more of a do-it-all type of player, but sometimes he's he's a ghost out there. So getting PJ Washington back has been big for them. But I said it before, like I don't think Klay Thompson's going to make that much of a difference, and I think that ultimately, I think their best shot at getting far in the playoffs this year is probably starting Najee Marshall with PJ Washington and bringing Klay Thompson off the bench. And I think they're going to do everything in their power to give Klay as much opportunity as possible in the first part of the year. But come the second half of the year, I think Jason Kidd's going to make the hard decision.
I think when you look at that backcourt, it's really Luka, Kyrie, and Klay, and that you just don't get a lot of defensive stability. You don't have anyone in the perimeter that really could lock down a player. Klay used to, but he's just lost a step. He's not the same player defensively, and you're putting him at the 3 essentially, and he's just a bit out of his depths at this stage of his career to guard and be like a true stopper, and then also be effective as a 3-point shooter. I agree with Josh. I think Klay off the bench is going to give them more balance because they do need someone that plays better off the ball and also gives you a bit more defensive stability. I think the other thing that Josh touched upon is they probably need a little more from... Kyrie's not been bad this year, but considering Luka's just not been himself, like you really would expect Kyrie to pick up the slack, and he's been good, but not great, and not one of the best 2s in the game good. And I think you have 2 of the clutchest players in probably in NBA full core, and Luka and Kyrie. And so those games that you're losing by 1 possession, you would expect to be winning at least 50% of them. With those 2 players, because both those players can get their shots off. But is Dallas going to be a playoff team? Yes. Are they still a dangerous team? Well, this team went to the finals last year, so of course they're dangerous. Are they a top-end Western Conference team? Hell no. But I think they overperformed last year, and I think this year they're probably hitting where they are as a roster, and Luka's never going to become a defensive stud. Kyrie's never going to be a defensive stud, so you need to find that balance, and they just haven't found it.
I mean, Kyrie's averaging 24 points a game.
Yeah, and that's good. I'm not saying he's the reason they're losing. It's just Luka's not picked it up, and you'd expect Kyrie to be able to pick up the slack a little more if Luka's not playing well, especially because Kyrie's capable. It's not like he's not. If he was averaging 25 or 26, I'm sure they're winning, 6-7 more games?
Nah, I don't think you can blame Kyrie in this situation. Kyrie's been pretty damn good this year, and he's played in pretty much every game so far. I think it's more so fat.
I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying, like, if Luka's not playing himself into shape at this point, then yeah.
He's going to be out of shape for another couple of weeks with sitting this injury too, so... So Luka's numbers, he's averaging 28 points, 7.6 rebounds and assists. Hilariously, the same numbers. Shooting 43% from the field, 43.5. Guess what his 3-point percentage is?
27.
What'd you say, Josh?
2%.
2.
I heard poo.
Same thing. 32.4%.
It's not that.
10 attempts a game.
That's not the
brutal.
Worst. It's not the worst, though. Like, 32 is like, it's not 40, but it's not like 25.
It's pretty bad for how many times he shoots the ball from 3, though.
10 attempts a game?
No.
Come on, man. What do you mean that's not brutal? That's awful.
Okay. A bad 3-point percentage on that volume would be below 30. That's the truth.
No, a bad 3-point percentage at that volume is 32%. Like, Raj, that's not a good number.
No, I'm
you're
not.
Shooting 10 times?
What's Klay's?
Klay is shooting 37% on 8.5 attempts.
I will say, what is pretty good is Kyrie Irving is averaging 54, 54, 86. So I think he's been pretty good this year. Pretty good.
Yeah. Kyrie should probably shoot more threes.
Yeah, he should take the ball away from Luka. That's exactly it.
Yep.
Yeah, not blaming Kyrie for not taking the ball out of the superstar's hands, though.
He is a superstar himself.
No, but we didn't blame, like, Dwayne Wade for not taking the ball from LeBron.
Should have.
Relax.
That's why he got the statue he got.
That's why he got a back-to-back championship with LeBron. Come on, man. Relax. Josh, give us some stats corner. I'm tired of Raj.
I just have one thing for you guys this week. This is more of a historical stats corner. Okay, so in terms of the players who have played with the most teammates in NBA history, right now there is only one of these players left in the NBA out of the top 5 who have played with the most teammates in NBA history. Now, I'm going to give you some hints because this is going to be very difficult. I'll give you guys a guess each, and then we'll go into some hints. So, which players have played with the most teammates in NBA history, which means that they've had a long career, probably with multiple tems.
Raj, you want to start this one?
No, I'll let you start. I'm thinking of some players. I think you might even know.
Well, the obvious one is Vince.
Vince Carter is number 2 at 261 teammates played with over the course of his career.
Oh, we're talking about all. I thought we were trying to find the one that's still active.
We'll do the 5. We'll see how long this takes.
Okay.
I know who it is.
Sure.
I know exactly who it is.
Okay, how about LeBron James?
Nope. Go ahead, Peter.
Jeff Green.
He is number 1 with a bullet. 263 teammates played with in NBA history.
Uncle Jeff.
All right,
Damn.
so I'm going to get into some hints now.
Ooh.
So this player is recently retired. He's a swingman. He played really good defense, knocked down threes. He was a quintessential 3-and-D player. He won at least one championship, and he played on a LeBron team while doing it. And wherever he went, he just seamlessly fit in, and he was a prospect coming in that a lot of people thought was going to be a lot better than he was, but he still had a really good NBA career. Any guesses?
I was going to say Danny Green, but that doesn't sound like Danny Green's trajectory.
No, Danny Green, no. He didn't. He only played on 3 teams, really. He won with LeBron.
Yes.
3-and-D player.
He was on the Harden teams as well as their starting small forward.
Trevor Ariza.
There you go. Trevor Ariza. 259 teammates played with.
Wow.
Nice.
I
Good
misspoke
call.
before. There is one more player still in the NBA on this list,
Oh.
but he never plays. And he's always on who he play for, if you've watched that.
Oh, Garrett Temple. Let's go.
Oh my God. Jeez.
Legend.
I-
Toronto Raptors legend.
250 teammates played with.
Wow,
Damn.
you didn't even remember that he's still in the league. That's how obscure he is.
I totally forgot he's at the Raptors.
Oh my goodness.
God. That's good. That's good. Good pull.
And the last player, I think he's won at least 3 championships as sometimes starting center, one of the most entertaining players in NBA history.
JaVale McGee.
JaVale McGee, 245 teammates played with.
He's retired?
He's not retired, but he's not in the league anymore either.
Yeah.
He's not on Sacramento. He was in Sacramento last year.
I don't think he is right now, though.
Let me check this out.
I thought he was in the
swear
league. I thought he was in the league.
I'm pretty sure he signed a 2-year contract last year.
I don't think so.
Josh, if you tripping, man.
Yeah, we got to redo the whole podcast.
Well, I'm not doing all that.
Current team, United States. That's what it shows up on Google.
Not a bad team. Not a bad team.
Yeah.
However, current contract, Dallas Mavericks, $2.2 million.
Get that money.
Waived and stretched last, let's see, August 29th, 2023. Nice. So until 2028, JaVale McGee will be making $2.2 million from the Dallas Mavericks. Good for him. Shout out to JaVale, man. Love JaVale.
JaVale McGee.
He was great on Denver for that, 2-3 year span.
He was great on Shaq and a Fool.
Yes. The OG Shaq and the Fool. On that note, I want to thank everyone for listening. Please remember to rate and subscribe on all your major podcast platforms. We're also on all the socials at HoopsCornerPod. And until next time, peace.